Donald Trump just dropped a monumental post on Truth Social that has certainly shaken Iran to the core and left the rest of the world wondering, did President Trump just announce that the United States is about to bomb Iran to smithereens? As this Israel-Iran war is heating up, I want to explore the US's position in all of this, take a look at all of the different sides and opinions, and try to figure out what is the best course of action we should take. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but let's hear what Donald Trump had to say earlier today from the G7.
They'd like to talk, but they should have done that before. I had 60 days, and they had 60 days, and on the 61st day, I said, we don't have a deal. They have to make a deal, and it's painful for both parties, but I'd say Iran is not winning this war. And they should talk, and they should talk immediately before it's too late.
So that was Donald Trump earlier today. Now let's read the post from Truth Social that absolutely rocked the world. Donald Trump posted, Iran should have signed the deal. I told them to sign. What a shame and what a waste of human life. Simply stated, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said it over and over again. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. He continues by saying, America first means many great things, including the fact that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Make America great again. So many have been speculating whether those messages implied Donald Trump's going to step aside and let Israel do what it needs to do. That might be a regime change. Or is that implying that the United States will in fact lend its planes to drop massive bunker-busting bombs and destroy the Iranian nuclear program once and for all? So Donald Trump is obviously still confident that the United States and Iran can come to some sort of agreement here. But what I noticed in that clip is that his tone is very much different. Before, it was more assured, more optimistic. The way he said it there seems like he genuinely cares for the lives of the Iranian people, and he is hoping for their sake that they come to the table and do a deal. His tone is telling me Israel is about to do something massive to Iran, or that the United States is going to lend their bunker busters and totally eliminate the entire Iranian nuclear program. I genuinely think Donald Trump is a kind-hearted guy and does not want to see people die, whether that's in Gaza, whether that's in Ukraine, or whether it's here in Iran. But he's also a pragmatist, and he knows Iran, simply put, cannot be allowed to have nuclear bombs. I genuinely think Donald Trump wants to save lives here. I think he would much rather have a good, solid deal rather than war. But he's also not going to let Iran just yank his chain around, trying to buy time, trying to stall with these conversations while continuing to develop nuclear weapons. The IAEA, which is the international body that monitors nuclear energy and nuclear bombs, has confirmed that Iran has been violating all of their promises. So Israel, being much closer to the conflict, is like, yo, Mr. President, we really hope you work this out. We would love nothing more than to get an ironclad deal that puts our survival at ease. But if you can't, we are going to do it ourselves. Let's hear from the Prime Minister of Israel himself.
We're also protecting the world. They have ballistic missiles that can now reach deep into Europe and soon could reach the United States. And imagine what this regime that caused death to America every time, that bombed your American embassies, that murdered 241 Marines in Beirut, that killed and injured thousands of American servicemen in Iraq and Afghanistan, that tried to blow up a restaurant in Washington, that burns the American flag. You want these people to have nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them to your cities? Today it's Tel Aviv, tomorrow it's New York. I understand America first. I don't understand America dead. That's what these people want. They chant death to America. So we're doing something that is in the service of mankind, of humanity, and it's a battle of good against evil. America should and does stand with the good. That's what President Trump is doing, and I deeply appreciate his support.
Now, he pulled a Zelensky there, which I really did not appreciate. Don't drag us into your conflicts by fear-mongering and somehow unjustifiably saying that your problem is synonymous with our problem. It's just like when Zelensky said, today it's Ukraine, tomorrow it's the United States, we'll feel it. And Donald Trump abruptly stopped him and said, you're not gonna tell us what we're gonna feel. And that's the messaging mistake from these foreign leaders when they wanna try to convince us to help them, is we're not gonna be disrespected, we're not gonna be manipulated. Don't guilt trip us. The American people don't respond well to that. But I can understand Israel's desire for our help. A country that chants death to America and is actively defying international rules and proliferating a nuclear weapon with the goal of one day being able to blow up America is a problem. And Donald Trump is already on board with resolving this problem. Bibi Netanyahu doesn't need to guilt trip him into it. But he's also not helping by starting a hot war with Iran right in the middle of the Trump administration negotiating with Iran. But I have to surmise from that, Israeli intelligence, which is top tier, must have reason to believe it's now or never. Now, the Republican Party is obviously divided by these two paths. You have half who want to stay out of any and every conflict no matter what, and you obviously have the war hawks who are eager to get in a hot war with Iran. What I want to explore in this video is the nuance. Who's right? Who's wrong? Are they both right? Are they both wrong? Let's hear from Tucker Carlson, who is definitively against getting into this conflict.
I actually really love Trump. I think he's a deeply humane, kind person. And I am saying this because I'm really afraid that my country's going to be further weakened by this. I think we're going to see the end of American empire, obviously. Other nations would like to see that, and this is a perfect way to scuttle the USS America on the shoals of Iran. But it's also going to end, I believe, Trump's presidency and effectively end it. And so that's why I'm saying this.
What do you mean by that? That's coming from you. That's
you get. Look, I knew Bush. I knew George W. Bush. We had, family connections to Bush. I knew Bush personally. I still see Bush sometimes, and of course, he hates me, and he does because I criticized him on Iraq, and that war is the sum total, from a historical perspective, of his administration. But I knew him, and he had all kinds of plans for the things that he wanted to do.
Now, Tucker makes complete sense here. Donald Trump ran on an America First agenda, dealing with the slew of domestic issues we have here, ending foreign wars, restoring global order, and getting back to making some money, bringing back American prosperity for her people. And if we get into a war with Iran, it's likely not going to be the easy, simple thing a lot of people might think it will be. For people like Tucker Carlson, the 2 decades of war in the Middle East left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. They saw ridiculous military spending on an endless war with no concrete goal. They saw service members die by the thousands. They saw this radical Islamic regime change strategy fall on its face time and time again. And I completely understand the perspective that if we get involved and it complicates things even further, Donald Trump's entire second term could be consumed by a Middle East war. That would not only tarnish his legacy as a peace president, but it would completely distract from his ability to be able to restore domestic prosperity, to allocate large amount of funds and focus to deportations. It would radically increase military spending in the budget, which would go completely against the idea of reducing the national debt. All of those things make total sense. But now let's hear the other side of the argument from General Keane on Fox News.
Firdow is a half-mile buried inside of a mountain. And you believe the United States has no choice but to get involved with the Iranians? Explain that, sir.
Well, it's in the United States core national interest that Iran does not have a nuclear capability and get to it. That's a fact. And this capability, if we leave it there, the Ayatollah will recover and rebuild. And that's what he's absolutely counting on. That's why he never was willing to dismantle the program himself with verification. That would end his program. Here he believes he has a chance. And that's what these guys are all about. And we've got to finish what we started here.
Now, I also understand this side of the argument too. In the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, we were starting from scratch. We were kicking it off ourselves. Here, Israel has already done most of the heavy lifting. They currently have air superiority over all of Iran. They've already destroyed 1/3 of their missile defense system. Simply put, what they're asking us to do is take a couple of B-2 bombers across the safe skies and drop the massive bunker buster bombs where they're hiding their most prized nuclear facilities half a mile under mountains. They're not asking for boots on the ground. They're simply asking for 2 planes over the skies that they've already cleared to achieve a mutual goal of ensuring that Iran will never get nuclear weapons. Because frankly put, it's Israel's problem. And it might not be the United States' problem for quite a while, if ever. But the reality is, if they get the capabilities to nuke Israel, do you think we're going to war anyway once they do that? And at that point, we're making a much larger military commitment because an ally has been nuked. So we're essentially in the situation where, do we send 2 B-2 bombers today, or do we send 50,000 troops in a decade? And the final point on this is I want to add some nuance to Donald Trump's slogan, peace through strength. Peace through strength is a great philosophy. And it's a philosophy that we can easily achieve. Donald Trump can achieve it. But peace through strength requires your adversary knowing that you'll actually use that strength. If Trump greenlights 2 strikes to completely eradicate Iran's nuclear program, that shows Russia, that shows China, that shows North Korea, that a president is back in the office who doesn't want to engage in war, but certainly will. The might of the United States Army is only a deterrence if they think that it will actually be used. If we're never willing to use our strength to achieve peace, we're essentially a world champion, best MMA fighter in the entire universe, but we're a pacifist. We refuse to lay our hands on anybody for any reason. Okay, so now we've heard the 2 perspectives coming out of the Republican Party, but let's hear from a wild card, the old exiled prince of Iran.
Last time we spoke, I mentioned that the regime is at its weakest. As of last 3 days, the regime is 10 times weaker than it was 2 weeks ago. So at this stage, I think the Iranian people obviously realize that the playing field has been more equalized for them to give them finally an opportunity to rise and get rid of this regime. Because we always believe that the ultimate solution to the problem is for this regime to no longer be there. Not at the hand of foreign troops or countries, but at the hand of the Iranian people themselves. The Iranian people are the boots on the ground that we need. What they need, however, is solidarity from the free world to once and for all get rid of the problem, help Iranians overcome this regime, and put an end to all the threats that this regime has been the root cause of for decades now in the region and beyond.
Okay, so clearly he wants a regime change. He wants his authority and his prestige back. And he would most likely make a really good partner to both the United States and Israel. A civilized Iran might bring peace to the entire Middle East region. It would stop the funding of the terror groups that are attacking Israel, and it would probably allow for the Abraham Accords to actually get passed, ushering in an era of peace for the Middle East. These are all really, really good things. But regime change is hard, takes time, and would most certainly take US involvement. That's the bad thing. In the first and more likely scenario, we're just sending a couple planes through the sky to completely eradicate the nuclear program. It would be completely up to the Iranian people if they wanted to overthrow the regime at that point. What the prince is suggesting is a regime change forced by the United States and Israel. Now that I can emphatically say I'm against. That requires no nuance for me because it requires the same level of US involvement that we saw in both Iraq and Afghanistan, and I'm not for that at all. However, if we can assist in destroying the nuclear program, that might give the citizenry the confidence to revolt on their own, leading to the prosperous peace in the Middle East scenario I just laid out. But to Tucker's point, it does seem as if the establishment is kind of mobilizing to gain support for this conflict. Here's a Fox News report saying that, a secret nuclear location has just been found.
There's exclusive satellite images revealing the location of a previously unknown Iranian nuclear site. Now, the facility spans nearly 2,500 acres, and this is a big discovery. Jillian Turner has more from the State Department. Good morning, Jillian.
Pretty explosive, Dana. These satellite images that we have obtained exclusively show the alleged site location and even the layout. of these secret, previously unknown nuclear weapons facilities inside Iran. This, of course, raises fresh concerns about the regime's role in these ongoing nuclear talks with the Trump administration. The National Council of Resistance of Iran has collected intelligence from sources on the ground inside Iran that locate this nuclear weapons facility.
So it's these kind of things that make me a little wary if this is just another repeat of Iraq and Afghanistan. Are we just making up information to try to convince the public we should join this conflict because they have other hidden agendas? Because it's hard to believe the country we're most against getting nuclear weapons, we're just now conveniently discovering new nuclear facilities that are 2,500 acres large. So that makes me a little concerned that there could be other things going on behind the curtains. But what I found eerie is a video circulating of George Bush in 2003 talking about our involvement in the Middle East. And I promise you, it sounds word for word, verbatim, the exact same reason why they're saying we should get into this conflict. Take a look.
Information from a high-ranking Iraqi nuclear engineer who had defected revealed that despite his public promises, Saddam Hussein had ordered his nuclear program to continue. The evidence indicates that Iraq is reconstituting its nuclear weapons program. Saddam Hussein has held numerous meetings with Iraqi nuclear scientists, a group he calls his nuclear mujahideen, his nuclear holy warriors. Satellite photographs reveal that Iraq is rebuilding facilities at sites that have been part of its nuclear program in the past. Iraq has attempted to purchase high-strength aluminum tubes and other equipment needed for gas centrifuges, which are used to enrich uranium for nuclear weapons. If the Iraqi regime is able to produce, buy, or steal an amount of highly enriched uranium a little larger than a single softball, it could have a nuclear weapon in less than a year. And if we allow that to happen, a terrible line would be crossed.
So we know everybody's perspective. This is the game board right now. The United States doesn't want Iran to have a nuke, but hopes it can be achieved by a deal. Israel doesn't want them to have a nuke and thinks it needs to be done by force because it thinks that the regime won't honor a deal. The prince wants a regime change. I don't think he's even mentioned the nuclear program or not. The people against this are saying we shouldn't get involved. We don't need another Middle East disaster. We have plenty of problems at home. The people for it are saying, well, look, Israel's already done the heavy lifting. All we need to do is send a couple bombers in there. It gives us a chance to achieve our goal at Iran not having a nuke. It keeps our soldiers as safe as they could possibly be, and it allows us to project strength to our adversaries. Taking all that into account, I think I'm more on the side of let them fight it out for a week longer. Let Israel continue to weaken their air defenses to absolutely nothing. Put the risk for our pilots at zero. And then, yes, send these bombers, drop these bunker busters in this thing so we don't have to focus on it anymore. I think part of the reason Putin is playing around with Trump related to the ceasefire is because he knows Trump got elected on peace, on no new wars. And Putin is testing that. He's pushing that. He's saying, you can posture all you want, but I know your base doesn't want you to get involved in any fighting, so what are you really gonna do? If we drop these bombs in the nuclear program, it doesn't tell Putin that, okay, we're gonna go to war with Russia tomorrow, but it shows him we are serious about achieving our goals. That lets China know if they invade Taiwan, which is critical for every aspect of US technology, from consumer to military, we will defend it. When you go against American interests, that's one thing. But when you're taking steps that could potentially catastrophically destroy America, we will act swiftly and with massive, overwhelming strength. That's deterrence. That's peace through strength. But that's also just my opinion. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Turn on the notification bells so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.